Women's Rights Network Australia is a non-partisan network of women across Australia who organise to promote and protect our sex-based rights. Their mission is to ensure that every woman in Australia has equal opportunities and protections, regardless of her race, religion, sexuality, or any other characteristic. They work tirelessly to raise awareness about women's rights and to advocate for policies that promote sex-based equality and women's empowerment.
Thank you so much, Janet. I'm here talking from the Women's Rights Network Australia. I am one of the founders of this network, and we are modelled on the UK organisation Women's Rights Network. WRNA is about connecting women across the aisle and across the country. We're really here as a network, and we're just recognising that so many women feel incredibly alienated by what's happening with gender identity and what's happening to women's rights at the moment. And many women feel that they are muzzled, they can't speak, they don't have anyone they can talk to. And so we try to create a space that is safe and welcoming for women to firstly speak and gain courage and to take action. Yeah, so we are about connecting women across the island, across the country. And I'm here today to give an update on our campaign around the New South Wales LGBTIQA+ equality amendment legislation bill. So this is a bill that was introduced into Parliament by independent MP Alex Greenwich on the 23rd of August last year. Now, we knew this was coming, and there was it was in the works for about 18 months or so, and he did a bit of a closed consultation. So he did accept submissions from the community, and he did accept submissions, but he didn't involve any organisations in the drafting process except for ACON and Equality Australia and some of those organisations who are obviously very pro-trans activist. So the equality bill, it's a very wide-ranging, detailed and convoluted piece of legislation that delivers, amongst other things, self-ID. It also opens the gate on commercial surrogacy in New South Wales. It criminalises misgendering. It criminalises failing to support a family member's gender transition. It also abolishes all summary offences regarding prostitution and pimping. And so it really makes women quite vulnerable in New South Wales. I sort of jokingly say that I think self-ID is the least harmful part of this bill. It is so bad. It is absolutely terrible. Now, we have many challenges when we're fighting this legislation. The biggest challenge is how confusing the legislation itself is. So initially, Alex had said that he was going to introduce an equality omnibus bill. He has actually split that into 3 bills. The first is the equality bill. The second is the conversion practices bill, and he has tabled both of those. And thirdly, there is an intersex rights bill, which is yet to be tabled. So we still don't know what is in that bill. And then for good measure, the ALP had also promised to ban conversion practices by the end of 2023. And so they started consultation on their own bill for conversion practices separately. And so this has created a very confusing landscape for us to be working in. Now, if you do want a good overview of the equality bill, go to the WDI channel and have a look at the presentation given by Jade in September last year. So she came in to WDI and talked about the equality bill, and that was part of a workup for a detailed seminar that we actually did to try to tool people up to protest to their MP about this bill. And that was really good. We got at least sort of 60 people registering for that, and at least 40 on the night. And our mailing list is currently at around 200, and it continues to grow. I just am here to give a bit of an update about our campaign. And I just want to note as well that we are working closely with some other organisations, namely Coalition of Activist Lesbians, LGBT Alliance Australia, and Australian Feminists for Women's Rights. But I'll be talking mostly about the actions that we've been leading and coordinating. So first up, I did manage to get a tiny bit of coverage in the mainstream media. This was back on 11th of August, before we'd even seen the bills. We organised to get an electronic billboard up in Belmore. And of course, one of the reasons for that was to try to interest the media in a story. Now, you can see, if you read the story, there's still confusion about what the legislation is about. So they really made the story all about conversion practices, and they really skipped covering the self-ID aspect. So we've got this billboard up here, which says self-ID gives men and boys the key to women and girls' change rooms and sports teams. But the article doesn't really touch on self-ID at all. And I have a quote in there, and they've taken the one thing I said about conversion, and they've used that quote. So we realised, recognising that people are confused. They're confused about the issues. They think gay is trans. They think that we want gay conversion, or we're upset somehow about gay conversion. And talking to politicians, we realised that they were really confused about the issues. So one of the things last year we did was a 12-week letter writing campaign. So each week we put together a dossier of information on a particular background topic that this bill touches on. So girls deserve fair sport, TQ is not equal to LGB, lobby groups make bad policy, the situation in the UK and how they're starting to wind some of this back, etc. So we did that, and we encouraged others to write to their MP. So that helped us to really get a bit of volume in the campaign. It helped us as well because we weren't burdened with writing multiple tailored letters to MPs every single week. We just produced this research, and then we could write as individuals. One lesson I would say I have learned from this particular exercise was that while some people did send us the letter that they wrote to their MP, and that was really wonderful. We got some great letters and we were able to share some of them. It was really hard to gauge the success of this campaign because it wasn't easy to tell if someone had actually gone and followed the advice and used the material. So while we had some people feeding back and saying, yes, I used it, or I found this hard to use, or I found this easy to use, we didn't really get that sense of volume and how many letters were being sent. So a lesson I would learn for next time would be to try to make it easier for people to report back that they actually did that action that we asked them to do. We have, in terms of our letter writing, there has been really mixed results, lobbying and letter writing. So the politicians, they are really confused. They think LGB is GI, they don't really know what's happening. There's still confusion about the equality bill and the conversion bill. So we'll go and talk to them or write to them about equality and sex self-ID, and they will come back and they will say, oh, people are harmed by conversion practices, or they'll say, oh, we think Labor is introducing a bill to cover this off, which clearly refers to the conversion portion, not the sex self-ID portion. So the ALP's bill is really, putting a spanner in the works. we're noting that the ALP are likely to vote on block, and we're not really getting a sense of which way they're going to swing. So, you know, it is a really challenging landscape, but we're not giving up. We have had some really good meetings and really good calls where we've been able to put the issues out there and have really intelligent conversations. And sort of a lot of the people who are doing lobbying have come away feeling quite positive about the interactions, that at least they've been heard, the materials have been taken away, and, you know, the issues have been discussed. And we are getting, you know, quite a lot of boilerplate responses to the letters that we're writing, and they're very equivocal. So these boilerplate responses will say, we realise this is a complex issue, we'll take due care and we'll take your concerns into account when we make a decision, and we're not going to tell you what that decision is. So, you know, we're still in a very murky environment. So not content with lobbying, we have also taken it to the streets. We had a speak out in front of New South Wales Parliament in November, and you can read about that on our website. And we've got some wonderful videos of women giving speeches out there in front of Parliament. Everyone involved reported that there was very little negativity. There was about 20 women came up, and then we had bystanders sort of coming and going, including we had an MP come over and say hi and have a chat. So it's really encouraging when that happens. We also organised a statewide day of action on the 20th of January. So that was last weekend. So essentially we encouraged women to get out there, to leaflet, to do a banner drop, to take a picture of themselves, to tweet using the hashtag "This is not equality," and to use the materials on respectoursex.org, which is our dedicated campaign website for this campaign, and to do chalking and to tag Chalk About It on Twitter. So that was really good. We had women all over the state doing various things. So we had leafleting and banner drops. We had women going leafleting at Marrickville Metro, which, if you're from Sydney, you'll know is a very woke area. Sydney, Balmoral Beach, Coffs Harbour, Newcastle, and other locations. So there's just some pictures of some of the leafleting activities, and we have a lot of printable materials that are available on the Respect Our Sex website. So we're always generating more materials so that, you know, you can print those off, you can hand them out, you can give them to an MP, you can give them to a friend or family member, you can email them if you want to. And so just a few more pictures of our banner drops on our statewide day of action. So we had some women going out in front of Jenny Leong's office and Chris Minns' office. And here's Monique doing a bit of an impromptu speak out with the megaphone in front of Chris Minns' office. So we've actually got video of that up as well. And we had a railway bridge in Tempe as well with a banner that says, "Help us fight the new homophobia. Transition is gay conversion." And a banner being held up in City of Sydney, sex not gender, existential crisis, class war on women. We had women go down to Newcastle today, and some of the women who live in Newcastle, targeting the offices of MPs who are down there. So member for Charlestown and state member for Newcastle, holding up similar banners. And the idea of this is, obviously this is happening on a weekend, but we actually put these onto social media. We tag the MPs, we make them aware that, you know, that women are not happy with this. And we try to generate a bit of discomfort for them on social media. Now, we also did a little banner drop outside of Alex Greenwich's office, and he's the MP who's actually put out the equality bill. And when I first saw this photo, I thought, oh no, we'll have to crop this person out who's walking behind. And then I looked a little bit closer, and I saw that this was actually a bloke. So we put this image up uncropped on our Twitter, and it went a little bit nuts. So we had all sorts of people commenting, you know, lost for words, pictures worth 1,000 words. This is what we're talking about. This is the issue that, and this image actually, it was shared very widely, let's say. So people started retweeting it in other languages. And then people even started memeing it. So, and my favorite here is at the front, the gender, it's just nuts, which is, you know, which is pretty good. Like, it just demonstrates exactly what's going on. And this kind of golden opportunity generates quite a lot of buzz. So in the end, we got like 150,000 eyeballs onto this image. And it was shared very widely. So, you know, sort of 300 retweets or quote tweets. And, you know, I know that Twitter activism isn't everything, but it's also not nothing as well. And this kind of activism got us some exposure, got us the interest of a small Canadian podcast called the Josh and Artemis Show. They're sort of freedom types, I guess, is probably the best way to describe them. And they do a daily video podcast, and we actually did an appearance on their show. So that gave us another little bit of an opportunity to get on and to talk about this. So while we haven't had a lot of success in the mainstream media, and I know I had that one article back in August, but we've had some nibbles after that, but it's been very hard to actually land a journalist to talk about this since then. So we're very much concentrating on that grassroots media. Just a couple of notes on how we organise for this campaign. We're having weekly New South Wales Action Group meetings. We're also having weekly campaign strategy meetings. We're having monthly social events, so getting together, having drinks, you know, having a bit of a laugh, eating some chips, and being in a pub, and just, you know, existing as humans is also really important. And that's where we're able to bring new people in as well. They're able to meet us and, you know, to see that we're, you know, nice people that are good to hang out with. And we're also in constant contact on WhatsApp and Signal chat groups and email. So we're constantly kind of talking over these issues and new developments in what we're doing. In terms of next milestones, the 8th of February is when the bill is tabled for debate in the lower house. And it may be voted that day, or the vote may be deferred to the 14th of March. So they are most likely dates for something to happen. We will be in the Parliament and we'll be outside the Parliament on both of those days. So we do have the intention to do an action if the bill is passed. At this stage, we honestly don't know, but it's very likely that it will pass the lower house, and then the fight will move to the upper house. And so there's going to be some very hard lobbying in the coming months. Now, I do have a request. So we do have a request that that everyone actually participates in a Call Your MP action that we're doing over the next couple of weeks, or the next week, I guess. So we're trying to mobilise women to actually pick up the phone, to call an MP, call their office and say, listen, We don't want sex self-ID, so we actually have a campaign page for this on respectoursex.org that has a script that you can follow. It has documents you can download and send to the MP in a follow-up email. So at this point, we want to dial up the pressure a little bit, and we'd really like your assistance in helping us to make it known to MPs that there's no community support for sex self-ID, no matter what the lobby groups are telling us. And oops, I'll just go back a little bit. And we have, these are some of the really high quality documents that we have that are available to email to MPs as well and to print out as flyers. So we have the reality of male sexual offending, which just talks about the facts and the statistics that are known, that saying the magic word, saying I am a woman, doesn't change male psychology. It doesn't change the male body, that men still have male patterns of criminality, even if they say those magic words. We have a great sex self-ID checklist, which is just a series of questions that you can ask someone about sex self-ID, and it's a really handy thing to take with you to an MP meeting. So it asks things like, does a 6-year-old girl have a right to shower in the change rooms of the swimming pool and not see a penis? And of course, the answer, the moral answer, the ethical answer, we know the answer is yes, but with sex self-ID, she would not have that right. And it's a really hard-hitting questionnaire, list of questions. We have the dilemma of the gender sex self-identification dilemma, which is a pamphlet that talks about, there's a couple of guys in Spain who've recently got into a little bit of a spat because one of them has accused the other one of not being very sincere about being a woman. So they're in this debate about who's womaning hard enough. And so the pamphlet just tries to highlight that this is a ridiculous situation. We have two men who are arguing about who's more of a woman or who's really a woman when they're both pretending to be women. They have no claim. And we also have a timeline of women's rights in Australia that just goes through how recently we have won some of the rights to single-sex spaces, and especially the provisions, the respect for same-sex relationships between women in Australia. So that's just some of the materials that we have that we'd ask people to send to their MPs. So remember, please go to respectoursex.org and also find us on Twitter at WRN Australia. And thank you very much. Back to you, Janet.
Thank you, Kit. What an amazing campaign. It's fantastic and so easy to use the materials and do the thing. It's no excuse to feel overwhelmed anymore. It's all laid out there for us.